It is coming up to 2:10. When Tracy and Sean Bostrom's daughter Josie was 17, she was diagnosed with cancer and she was given extremely aggressive chemotherapy and told she wasn't likely to live for more than a year. She also had the majority of the bone between her upper thigh and ankle replaced with metal bones. 11 years on, Josie is now facing another challenge, and her parents Tracy and Sean are with us in the studio. So lovely to have you both here. And I'm delighted that we also have Josie on the phone. Josie, good afternoon to you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Just, Josie, first of all, take us back to when you were 17 and that initial diagnosis, which must have been absolutely awful.
Well, it sounds very strange, but to be honest, I've been very ill for a long time. And so when it came, it was almost without surprise. And I can't really describe it, and it doesn't happen this way for everybody, but I had this utter determination that the doctors were wrong and that I was going to prove them wrong. I've always been a bit of a rebel, and I think that came out in me when I was like, no, actually, I'm going to do this. So yes, while on one hand it was devastating to see the turmoil my family were going through and so on, for me inside there was this fire that was like, no, we're going to keep going. It's going to be fine.
Tracy, Sean, I just want to bring you in here because, I mean, we've obviously only heard 30 seconds of Josie and you really get a real sense of the sort of person she is. Sean, you must just be so proud of her.
Yeah, I am. It's quite cringeworthy, really, but she's my hero.
Oh.
Yeah. A strange thing that people often say is, well, two people who've never ever met each other, but that have been in Josie's life, a college lecturer and then, she might correct me on this, but a work colleague, have both given her the same nickname, which is, it could be considered rather ironic, but she's been known as the Messiah with a few people. That she's been, and I've never known anybody else ever been given that nickname, apart from obviously JC years ago.
The rebellious Messiah, then.
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
But just really because of the way she inspires people. Yeah.
And Josie, I mean, obviously you did prove your oncology team wrong, but you went through, what was it, 5 surgeries after that initial diagnosis. Just to tell us about some of the journey that you had to go through. So I had, well, it's actually in total I've had about 7 surgeries for various different things, but 5 surgeries on my leg. Unfortunately, the surgery that I had was also in itself, so the treatment I went on was a trial treatment, and the surgery I had was also a kind of experimental surgery. At one point I had the longest prosthesis in Europe, and so it was always a bit and ah about whether or not it would work, and so and unfortunately over the years what's happened is that it's just become loose, so I tend to have the revision, have the replacement of the metal bone, and then after about 1 year it starts to become painful, and then after about 2 years it's completely loose and they have to replace it. So we've done this so many times now, and we've just come to a point where it doesn't seem sensible to keep replacing it, and it seems like there is possibility for me to be able to do more and to move forward with an amputation and continue my life in a better forward motion.
Josie, you talk about the idea of it sort of continuing your life, but these surgeries and this treatment, it sounds like it's taken up a huge amount of time. How on earth have you been able to sort of carry on with the rest of your life?
Well, I have to say I've been supported by incredible people. I continued college throughout my treatment, and I had some incredible lecturers who supported me there. And then going through to university, I obviously had to have multiple surgeries during university, and again was so well supported by lecturers who are still my friends now, and who actually, funnily enough, I work with. And it's the same with the company I'm in. I seem to have been very, very lucky and fortunate to have fallen into jobs or education that has always had my back, as well as the fact that I've obviously had an incredible family. So it's very easy for me to keep moving forward throughout these surgeries because I have such an incredible support network around me who keeps inspiring me and pushing me and motivating me.
And I mean, you really do push yourself, Josie, because you learnt to handy ski. What does that entail?
So handy skiing is a form of paraskiing, basically. It's where you basically sit in what I can only describe as like a child's car seat, and that's on 2 skis, and you basically sit on the 2 skis and you ski down the mountain. So it's incredible. It's very, very difficult, and actually I would say harder than skiing. But way faster, so therefore much more enjoyable.
And I know something that you want to do is join a para-canoe team.
I would, yeah. I really enjoy kayaking and canoeing, and always have. So basically, when I was on my way to my surgeon's appointment, I was laughing with my husband, saying, "Well, if you're going to have an amputation, you may as well become a Paralympian. I mean, that's just what you do, isn't it?" So I said, I was looking through the Paralympics website and was looking at the sports that they host and thinking, well, which one can I do? And as soon as I saw para-canoeing, I was like, well, there you go, that's my aim.
Absolutely incredible. So where are you up to with the amputation? When is that likely to be?
So it's the amputation's next Thursday. So at the moment I am on bed rest at home, trying my best to minimise movement and pain so that going forward into my surgery I can minimise the chances of getting phantom pain afterwards, which is often associated with the pain you had before. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Do you know, Tracy Shawn, I was expecting a hugely different interview to this, but it's incredible. Like, she is just amazing.
She's now my hero. I've only heard her talk for about 3 minutes, and I think she's brilliant.
I can probably speak for Tracy that we prefer Josie talking, and we'll just sit here and listen.
But I mean, that's the thing, Josie. You have been incredibly open about your experiences, and you've been blogging about it. And this is where the Positive Bones comes into it. Tell us a little bit about that and how it got started.
So Positive Bones is a twofold thing. So in the first instance, I want the Positive Bones social media to be a forum of support for other people out there who might be facing a similar situation, or an advice page for them to research ways in which they can help prepare themselves for upcoming surgery, not necessarily just amputation. And then as well as that, it's also a fundraiser to help buy me a leg. I'm active, as I've already pointed out, and I always have been. And the NHS is wonderful and incredible and does everything it can. But following my amputation, I would absolutely love it if I had the ability to do the things I do now. But also, I would love it if I had the ability to do more than I can do now. For the past 11 years, I haven't been able to climb the stairs properly, run for a bus, or ski with my family. And I would love to be able to do those things again. It would be so incredibly wonderful. But Positive Bones isn't just about me. As I've mentioned, it's also a forum to help support other people. But then going forward, we would love it if it became a registered charity to help other people with limb injury or illness recover their sense of self through prosthetics, and finding them suitable limb supports to do the things that they love too. So it's a bit of a twofold manifesto. In the first part, it's for me, and the second part is for other people as well.
Well, you have done a lot of research on new legs. Tell us about the one you've got your eye on.
So the one I've got my eye on is made by a company called Otterbock, which is a German company, and they do two legs, which I'm interested in. One is called the Genium and one is called the X3. Ultimately, the main goal is the X3, and it's so incredible that it was developed in conjunction with the American Army to help them get back into the field. And the best way I can describe it is, to get it would be the equivalent of having my leg back. I can swim in it, I can have a shower in it, I can climb stairs, I can run, I can leap, I can do different terrains, but it's also waterproof, which is so important for my Paralympic goals, because it means that if I fall off into the water while I'm kayaking, it's not going to damage the leg in any way.
And after you have your leg amputated next week, how long would it be before you could get this new one?
Well, so that depends entirely on the fundraising. I have 6 weeks bed rest, which is mandatory in any format. If I were to go through the NHS, it will take probably up to about 8 months to a year before I can actually get a leg. Whereas if I could fundraise to buy a leg now, in 6 weeks' time, I could already be doing my physiotherapy, and I could be walking without sticks by Christmas, which would obviously be absolutely amazing. So it really depends on the fundraising, on how soon I can be up and active, really.
I can't imagine what you'd be like on bed rest, I'm going to be honest.
I am a nightmare.
Do you know, Shawn and Tracy, I have to say, as mum and dad, first of all, good grief, Josie, such a credit to you. What an unbelievable human being. I have to ask, what was she like as a little girl?
She was actually very gentle, but I think when you're faced suddenly with the fact that your life might end, that was when she discovered herself. Being very honest, she discovered I wouldn't let her give up studies. I said, this isn't an option for you. We've got to still aim, even though they've given us bad news, we've still got to aim for something else. And so I still made sure she did her A-levels, and I took a year off work and sat by the bed and we went through the books. I collected them from the college. And then when she was bold and finished her treatment, I said, right, you've now got to get onto a course and see where you're going university-wise. So we didn't, I suppose I was a bit stubborn there as a mother. I thought, I'm not going to let her give up here.
And do you think...
Go
ahead, Josie.
I was going to say my mum was incredible. She is so motivational. I would be feeling horrendous in bed, and I'd be sat there, and she would go, right, no, you're going to have a shower, you're going to put your makeup on, we're going to put some fresh pajamas on you, you're going to feel like yourself, which I think is so incredibly important when you feel ill, is to kind of bring back your sense of self and make yourself feel, it sounds awful, but worthy, and go, right, actually, do you know what, I can do this.
Do you think, from that point of view, hearing that, Tracy, do you think it helped with you having a nursing background? Did that give you some sort of insight?
Probably. I think you see so many other families who are also trying to do exactly the same thing for their children. So I was basically just copying what other parents had done, and we were just fortunate that Josie made it, and sadly some didn't. It was a very hard year where we went to 13 teenage funerals. And you do start to feel guilty that your own daughter has survived, really. And so to everybody out there who has lost somebody, it's just heartbreaking, really. Carry on, Josie.
I certainly would say that the people that, we went to all the funerals, and one of the things that certainly spikes the fire in me is that I have to live for them. They didn't get the opportunities that I have been given. And so if I weren't to use this new life in some ways to the best of my ability, I wouldn't be honouring them. So I think that's really important.
I'm almost speechless. Just absolutely all unbelievably incredible. But let's talk about the fact that this is not only just about hopefully raising as much money as possible through Positive Bones, but also awareness as well. And that's the key thing, Tracy, sort of making teenage cancer something that people do think about as a possibility.
Yeah, I don't think, I think teenagers think they're invincible, and we honestly, even I as a nurse, didn't realise that the lump on Josie's leg was actually cancer at the time. I thought maybe the GP even thought it was shin splints, and we were thinking of all kinds of things, and it wasn't until I started to think a little bit more about it that I thought, no, maybe I ought to push a bit more to get X-rays and that done.
Well, we did have to push very hard actually at the time, didn't we?
We did, but I do think that yes, any teenagers out there that have lumps or bumps anywhere, do go and get them checked out. It might just be absolutely nothing, but osteosarcoma is quite common in teenagers, especially through your growth spurts. More common in boys actually, but if you do have any lumps on your bones, just go and ask the GP for an X-ray, and that would give them a basic idea if something's going on.
Now, Sean, you have been event planning, and there is an event that you would like to think about holding in the next year or so?
Yes, it's actually an idea of Josie's neighbour, Pete, who visited the island last year for the first time. Josie and husband James brought Pete and his girlfriend over for a visit to the TT. They're not bike fans at all, but they just came because the TT is good fun. And he fell in love with the place. But his thing is running and ultramarathons, which sound terrifying. He came up with this thought that, the Manx flag is 3 legs. The circumference of the island is roughly 100 miles. If we divide it into 3, it's 30-odd mile leg each of a race. So sort of something like a relay race, and 3 people run a leg each of it. So we could call it the 3 legs of man, double N. So that sort of idea has developed in the last 24 hours, and I've mentioned it to a few people, work colleagues in the fire service, who are mad enough to do these sort of things. And I'm going to mention him, put a bit more pressure on Tommy Hughes, does this sort of thing, and he's happy to sort of get involved in organising it. And quite a few people are already showing quite an interest.
I tell you what, I put some money on the fact that if Josie gets her new leg before then, she'll be doing it as well. Speaking of the fire service, you've got the open day, Peel Fire
Yes, thank you for
Service.
reminding me of that. Peter Kane, the station officer at Peel, contacted me the other day, and what they usually do is they have an open day. 51% raised on the day goes to the firefighters charity, which is what fire station open days are normally about. The other 49% is sort of a charity that's chosen by the crew for something that's close to the heart at the time. And they all had a little chat and said, Sean Bostrom's daughter's Paige looks interesting. She's a very inspiring young lady. Why don't we give the other 49% to Positive Bones? So I only found out about this a few days ago. So I'll be down there, obviously helping them out on the day, making coffee or operating the Alp or whatever's required. And it's really quite touching.
Well, Josie, if anybody's listening and they want to follow your blog and they want to support you on the next part of your journey, how do they follow you?
So they can follow at Positive Bones on both Facebook and Instagram. And then also the fundraising part is being done through GoFundMe. So if they simply search Positive Bones on GoFundMe, it should pop up and they can donate through there.
Wonderful. It has just been an absolute delight speaking to you this afternoon. Thank you so much. I mean, you haven't actually said hello to Mum and Dad yet. Hello.
Hi, Josie.
Hi, James.
Hi.
And are you two going over next week?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the
They'll be here.
amazing thing about that, I think, is it something like this, you would normally associate it with being something very sort of difficult to deal with, and obviously it will be, and it will be a challenge, but at the same time, there is a huge amount of positivity about the future.
We
with
make
this.
it sound like it's quite exciting, don't we?
Yeah.
Really do. Absolutely.
You just need
We do.
You just need a pet parrot now, don't you,
Everyone's
Josie?
going to be doing it.
Yes.
Did you hear your mum's comment there about a pet parrot? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. We've all been joking for the past few years. I've been peg leg and everything, so it's the best way. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. That's
Long
the
John
best way, isn't
Josie.
it?
Yeah.
Josie, thank you so much. Do please keep in touch with us and let us know how you're getting on. And for the moment,
Thank you
Sean
very
Tracy,
much.
thank you
you.
so much for being here. 26 minutes past 2 now.